you to the 2017-2018 Carnival season at the Phoenix Club. It's been quite a year here. We had a great Oktoberfest. Donald Trump was inaugurated as president. We still have Obamacare. We still don't have a wall. But my daughter graduated from high school. And she left us to go to college. And my wife and I are empty nesters. And when mothers talk about empty nesting, they are not mourning over the piles of laundry that sit on the floor in my daughter's bedroom. They are not mourning about the late nights worrying where she is while she's out late with her friends. And she's not worrying about all of those stupid arguments about the stupidest things. No, mothers are just upset because they used to be the supervisor-in-chief, the commander-in-chief, and now they've been relegated to just being a spectator. It's very similar to maybe how we would feel about, President Obama, who's now, well, he's just Mr. Obama. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a sad situation, but, it's not easy being an empty nester. My wife and I, we had a very sad argument the other night, and we were doing the silent treatment with each other, and I realized that I had to get up early the next morning for a business trip, and that the alarm clock was on her side of the bed, so I needed to let her know to wake me up in the morning. But rather than breaking the silence and losing the argument, I wrote on a little piece of paper, "Wake me up at 5 a.m. And I put it where I knew she would see it. Well, the next morning, I woke up at 7, furious that I had missed my flight, and just as I was about to yell at my wife, I noticed that there was a little piece of paper sitting next to me in the bed. It's 5 a.m. Wake up. No, it's not easy. It's not easy. Some friends of ours, very close friends of ours, a couple of years ago went through that empty nester thing, and they had to go through marriage counseling. I mean, I don't know if anybody out there has had to do this, but, it was a very sad situation. They went to marriage counseling, and on that first day at marriage counseling, that counselor said, it's very important that you guys communicate, and it's essential that the husband and the wife get to know each other and understand what they like and dislike. And he turned to my friend and he said, for example, do you know what your wife's favorite flower is? And my friend thought about it for a minute. He leaned over to his wife and he whispered in her ear, it's Pillsbury, isn't it? Yeah, that's my friend. A lifelong friend. Lifelong friends are very hard to find. And, it reminds me of a story. There was a bunch of guys, very close friends. They grew up and graduated from high school, and they were 40 years old. And they were trying to figure out where they wanted to have dinner together. They all wanted to get together and have dinner. And so they finally decided that they were going to have dinner at this restaurant called the Ocean View Restaurant. Why? Because the waitresses there had very tight pants and hot buns. So they had a great dinner. 40 years old, wonderful. Fast forward 10 years. 10 years later, they're all 50 years old. And they got together and they were trying to figure out where to have dinner. And they said, let's have dinner at that Ocean View Restaurant. Why? Well, because the food was pretty good, and they had a great selection of local beers. So they had a great dinner, But then again, fast forward another 10 years, now they're 60 years old. And this great group of lifelong friends wanted to figure out where they were going to have dinner. They're 60 years old, so they decided, let's have dinner at the Ocean View restaurant again. Why? Because we can have dinner in peace and quiet. And they have a great view of the ocean. Well, 10 years later, fast forward, now they're 60 years old, 70 years old, and they're all wondering, where are we going to have dinner now? So they said, let's have dinner at the Ocean View restaurant. Because, well, it's wheelchair accessible. And they have an elevator. Oh, man. And so finally, 10 years later, this whole group of lifelong friends are 80 years old, and they get together and try and figure out where they're going to have dinner. And they finally decide they're going to have dinner at the Ocean View restaurant. Why? Well, because they've never had dinner at the Ocean View restaurant before.